there's a lot of fun parts of this matchup. Even the draft is going to be so fascinating because those off-meta picks, we only just started to see the flavor of 5.2. We haven't seen a Tristana yet, for example. So there's a lot to be shown here, and I can't wait to get into this game.
Yeah, but we are into Champion Select, of course, ladies and gentlemen. No interesting bans to come through just yet. LGD taking away Janna and LeBlanc, whereas Rek'Sai and Casson going to be removed from OMG. Aurelia going to be an interesting ban away from Going, but he has seen massive form on that champion in the top side of the map, and Lissandra going to be taken away as well. So 2 top lane power picks. Acorn, though, he gets the Rumble.
Acorn gets the Rumble. That's such a big thing for LGD. It's actually been... We've seen a lot of LGD Rumbles, but curiously, it's been almost always the Flame Rumble.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that, of course, Acorn's so synonymous with that champion. Of course, that could just be an adaptive ban towards him. The champion hasn't been available for him to pick up. But if ever you could really trust anyone to split a team with an Equalizer, to zone control with that ultimate, I mean, once Samsung Blue were up and running, when Samsung Blue had enough threats from the other members that they couldn't just auto-ban the Rumble, those ults were amazing. I see your excitement. We've seen actually targeted bans towards Uzi on this Kalista. Kalistas haven't always won, but this is Uzi's Kalista, taking it away from Imp, who's already played him a lot, and look at the response right here. You know Chuan's going to lock in that Vi.
Yeah, that's right, and I was waiting for this one to come through. Oh, actually, skipping over it a little bit. Wayless looking at the Ahri, which was hovered on the side of OMG. Cool, a fantastic Ahri player. Wayless did talk about the fact that, you know, there were a lot of champions banned away. I think Ahri was perhaps on that list. As Schwen, he's going back to the potential Vi pickup, of course, being picked as this sort of counter to Kalista, which we've seen working out to great effect just because locking her down's really hard, but Assault and Battery, it's going to do it for quite some time.
Yeah, just playing with the picks, but I knew it was going to be the Vi there, just to lock down, because it's the most reliable engage, and it might force low onto the Morgana here. That's the best support answer to take down a Vi. Of course, you won't get CC'd through the Black Shield, but it does force you onto a champion that doesn't lane that well, is really all about the Dark Binding and the Black Shield and lane, the split timings there. It hasn't been a low standby, so it looks like it'll force him onto it. You can see him already considering it here. But again, it just pigeonholes your options. So for a jungle pick to cause such reactive play from the enemy squad, it's a very powerful pick to Vi right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And the Morgana going to be available. OMG were looking at it potentially, and a couple more picks to come through. I'm not going to say where they're going.
No, you shouldn't
because
do that.
I'm just not going to make that assumption. Cool, probably going to be taking that Azir into the mid lane, and Uzi has locked away that Maokai. Could be either top, support, jungle, and they might play at AD carry. I don't even know. Just Maokai seems to be very versatile. PWL looking at his options here in LGD. They do need to lock in that bottom lane, and it will be a response to this Kalista. And what can they do to punish it? Leona has already been locked in, and Imp going to be taking the grave, so a lot of upfront burst. This is sort of the classic kill lane down there.
And I think it was a 9-0-7 Imp Graves against this exact matchup in the Imp vs. Vasily matchup yesterday. He destroyed Vasily's Kalista in that series. Might actually not be the Annie support for once.
We don't know. Look, I'm just going to wait until the very end when all of these swaps have been locked in and we know exactly what's going on. Low still taking some time to work out exactly what's going on, and we'll see what Uzi wants to throw into the enemy team. Because I was having a little bit of a consider about, you know, the Maokai pickup and why Low may have been playing that recently. I know that Uzi has been playing a lot of Kalista, especially in that solo queue, but Fate's Call plus Maokai, being able to get Maokai right into the backline as quickly as you like, that's a useful combination.
Yeah, I can see that being very, very strong from the support role, but it is going to probably be the Annie support. We're waiting for the last few seconds to tick away. When I look at this comp, for once I see quite a smart use of the Nidalee jungle. Yeah, it's just come through. So it will be the Annie support, will be the Maokai from Going. The big thing you can say here is that a lot of the Nidalee jungle picks have been with, say, for example, a Xerath, where they've really gone all in on the poke, and that gives you makes it very hard to pick up, say, for example, Baron, because if you're all corral trying to take that objective, you know, Nidalee does so well when she's ahead, when she's poking, but of course when you gap close on her, she doesn't offer that much in a team fight. In this situation, they have so much space control with Azir ultimate, and Azir's whole kit is all about anchoring down with those sand soldiers and doing damage on divers. They have Maokai against dive. They have a lot of protection for the dive, and Kalista and Nidalee should be fairly safe in the backline. So I do like the options they've opened for themselves here. But again, it's going to be a lot on Loveling's early pathing. He showed excellent play on that jungle Nidalee before. There's no reason he can't do it again.
Yeah, and Loveling, sort of the only one here in the LPL to find success on that jungle Nidalee so far. I mean, MLXG tried it in our earlier series.
Kakao did actually very well on it.
Oh, Kakao also managing to do quite well in our most recent series. Why I forgot about that is completely beyond me. But, of course, MLXG not finding it. Loveling has managed to do so in the past. So let's get on to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, and find out. And we are on to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, with LGD taking on OMG with our top-tier clash of the day. And we'll see whether any funny business is going to come through. Of course, LGD grouped up as 4, heading towards the OMG red side jungle as Loveling going to trap up that brush. Spots out Acorn. He's just going to walk towards that top side. And Papa Smithy, what do you think about the standard laning situation here for both of these teams? Because I'm looking towards that top side, and Rumble has tended to have a pretty good time here against Maokai.
Yeah, Rumble has a very good lane matchup against Maokai, so you want to dodge the 1v1 there if you can. Of course, he can scale. Once he gets the Catalyst, it's a bit more of a safe lane for him. The bigger factor here is that jungle Nidalee works best when you have a lane swap, just because you have the outnumbered situation. It's very hard for the enemy to contest one of your buffs. You're very likely to pick up 2 buffs if you commit to vertical jungling. So they really need to provide the setup for Nidalee to get through her early jungle, because if she's denied a buff, if she's ever 3 buffed, for example, she can struggle in the jungle.
We saw MLXG's Nidalee getting quite denied. We'll see whether that does happen again, of course, with Xuen on this Vi. Probably going to be focusing more towards that bottom side, locking down Uzi, trying to make sure that this comfort pick Kalista, potentially, actually comes to fruition here for the OMG bottom lane. And one of their biggest tests here as far as that 2v2 matchup against him and PYL. A lot of history there that we've spoken about already. Cool. Getting some harass down with these Sand Soldiers early on. And this is an interesting matchup here, Ari versus Azir.
Ari's just going to really warp into a very safe blind pick on blue side. I expect to see a lot of Ari on blue side, because whatever the enemy picks up as a counter pick, for example, if they leave mid pick to the 5th pick, Ari will do capable in that lane. Skill matchup and Ari are almost intertwined. We almost always bring it up. So that's what I was actually going to say in the second game of the series here. Whenever OMG on blue, you have to expect the Ari to pick up to come out, because Cool's so great on it. PYL gets the timer at least with an invade into the enemy jungle.
Yeah, PYL more than happy to leave a lane, as we've seen. Of course, shades of Sync Dream potentially coming through here as we have a look at what's going on with that support player, but it is going to be Imp soloing out these creeps, and PYL, he wants to head to that bottom side to help out Acorn dealing with this Low and Uzi combination in their bottom side. I could imagine, but he does actually cancel his back, so we'll see what he decides to do.
So the hard freeze is up on both top and bottom lanes here, which is pretty standard so far from what we've seen after the first week of the LPL. The one thing you can say about Kalista, the one spot where she kind of holds a team back strategically, is you're very priced in to keep Kalista next to your support at all times. Of course, Kallista's W damage comes in when the support auto-attacks. And then also, of course, the ultimate completely based around having your bound target next to you. So it does stop perhaps some of the roaming. And you can see up top, knowing this, LGD are playing very aggressively against Gogoing.
Yeah, this is the classic tactic of any Samsung team when they go against OMG, is to try their very best to destroy Gogoing.
And the funny thing is, OMG's standard strategy with Gogoing is to overward to protect him in a 1v2. But for once, you look at the top side of the map, underwarded at a minimum is actually only just 1 ward down, and Gogoing has to play super, super passively here. Will not have a safe lane to farm at all.
Yeah, Low actually going to be wandering through this jungle. Xuen spots him out. Loveling is round the corner here as well, but Acorn's around. There might be a scuffle, but ships in the night. LGD and OMG at this moment.
Actually did a very good job of pulling this lane. So Gogoing so denied in CS. Of course, Rumble has never entered lane, so those 2 creeps are jungle creeps coming out. And again, there's no defensive warding down from OMG. This is a big gap in their usual playstyle. They always want to set up Gogoing to get big in the late game. And look, on Maokai, that's one thing you need to do. The difference between a really farmed Maokai and a Maokai that's denied is massive.
But this is also going to be putting Acorn behind as well, and you have to think that getting to that level 6, getting to those equalizers is where Rumble wants to be around that mid-game area as going. He's going to be heading a little bit further forward than he'd otherwise want to against Imp, who's just more than happy to minigun him in the face. Ooh, actually uses that quick draw there as well. A lot of damage going down. This might be a bait though as Loveling comes through. There's the teleport immediately from Acorn. He is going to cancel that one out, but it is going to spell safety here for Imp.
Imp was very smart to flash the damage coming in from the gap close. Of course, when you have the hunt mark on you, you do have the targeted gap close coming out from Nidalee, but flashed away, no further damage coming in, and they don't even have to use the teleports. Cancelled to keep the cooldown down a little bit.
Yeah, going now. Actually able to get a little bit more farm in this lane than his lane opponent. Actually, Loveling going to pounce over the wall where he doesn't want to. Imp's moving down here as well. Going to have that pounce available yet again to get over that Baron wall, and he's going to be safe. But, man, that would have been terrifying. Go over that wall, and then all of a sudden there's a Vi in your face.
Absolutely, and the burst damage coming out from the very quick activation of the W means that he has to flash away. So Nidalee now actually very potent to counter jungling. And the one thing I want to mention is this is actually a reverse of OMG's matchup yesterday. See some aggression coming in bot though.
Yeah, stun coming down. The flash actually used by PYL as the Ren damage doing so much work. Ignite ticks down and PYL, he has to get out of the lane.
PYL is very low. We'll have to back here, so Acorn is just that much more at risk in the bottom lane. But if you remember yesterday, it was Cool's Ahri taking on the King mid laner's Azir, and it was
Assassin's Azir.
And he got very far ahead of Azir, was able to get the solo kill early, and really took that lane away. So you'd think he knows this matchup. He's opted into the Azir versus Ahri matchup. It's fine if you're willing to play defensively, but one charm can really warp this mid lane.
Yeah, and we saw actually King's Assassin doing a lot of work towards the later stages of the game there for King in that matchup. Of course, not able to come out ahead, but had some moments of brilliance on that champion. So even if he is behind just a little bit, which he isn't at this stage, things could still potentially be okay. Spirit Rush is actually going to come and find Loveling with a beautiful ward. And Wayless already off to a great start.
But the fight's actually on in the bottom lane.
Yeah, people battling it out. Uzi is trying to dance away the best that he can, but he finds Wayless. This is not what he wants, and Acorn's going to help out as Wayless picks up another kill.
Yeah, the fight's still going.
Oh my gosh.
And he's low, and there's people coming.
The charm lands. Wayless is everywhere today as Schwen's going to come through. Wayless, he's on a killing spree already, and it's like it's his birthday.
I was about to praise LGD for having that very aggressive pink ward down the enemy jungle. You can see it here on the minimap. They managed to catch Loveling in the transition. It was just going to be a short point, but sometimes the kills just fall in your lap. We saw it from a Twitch yesterday, just getting double buffs and kills early. But the 2 bonus kills added on to Ahri's score here. Ahri versus Azir can be even, but this is the second time we've seen a super snowballed Ahri.
Yeah, skill matchup doesn't quite apply anymore, ladies and gentlemen, as Wayless now at 3-0-0. He's going to be able to go back and potentially even get, whoa, he's got 2.3 thousand gold.
That's enough for a straight-up Morellonomicon. That's the aggressive option. You know Wayless is going to take it.
Oh, yeah. He has the chance to buy a heck of a lot of damage, but I'm even expecting a potential just needlessly large rod in Fiendish Codex, something like that to come through.
We just don't see those mid laners opting out of the CDR option early. OMG, despite all that aggressive play, all the kills coming out from LGD, smartly communicate that Wayless has to back. They know how much gold he's sitting on. It would have been reckless for him to come and compete for any objectives. Very low health, no shopping coming out. Straight Morellonomicon comes through. Obviously no gold coming through from that dragon, but they start the objective snowball. And when Nidalee jungle can start to control objectives, so hard to try and compete with those spears coming out of the no vision.
Oh, yeah, and you can see OMG still very close in the gold department. There is nothing in it, and that has a lot to do with this top lane. Going is doing a fantastic job in farming when he was against Imp. And then in the bottom lane, of course, Acorn struggling to get any CS. He's now on the top side, but he's going to be helping out the jungle. Spends most of his time in the jungle, does Acorn thus far this game. And now half the CS of going. And with a level disadvantage here as well.
I mean, the pressure was relieved off Gogoing. We saw all those aggressive wards, his relative no wards in the jungle. We thought, okay, he might be super denied in this matchup. But all the attention came to bot. They picked up a triple kill on Ahri, so they'll take it. But it's given Gogoing that much more room to breathe. So the big question here is, does he go for the more selfish choice? of the Rod of Ages, or does he try to accentuate the early game power spike with that Righteous Glory?
Yeah, and you can see LGD, this is their tactic against the Nidalee, is force her out of their own jungle with very deep vision. You can see Wayless went back, purchased that pink ward, and now has it very deep into this jungle. Even forced Loveling to deny his own red buff there by leaving those little Cinderlings up.
And it's one of the really smart pots you can put a pink ward, where it's just hard to spot, as a jungler's natural pathing doesn't take him over that brush very often, but the gank's on in mid.
There's the Assault Battery to come through. Look at that Empress Divide. Gets Xuen right out of there, and Cool's going to be okay. Maybe didn't need to use that, but that was a cool interaction.
I was going to say something about cool guys and explosions there, but he walked away just fine.
No worries at all. Loveling has hunted PYL here, wants to land another spear. Xuen blocks it out. PYL, a lot of, trust in his jungler to take that spear for him.
Jungle Nidalee is such a scary thing when there's no vision. As another spear comes through, there's not many skill shots that come out of darkness at that much vision. And if you never have eyes on Nidalee, you can't go missing on Nidalee. She's the jungler. You have a lot to think about when you're a laner.
Oh, yeah. You always have to play more jittery than normal, moving around like a crazy person, just to avoid those random spears over walls. Wayless, though, looking to collapse on this bottom side of the map. OMG, this is where a lot of their power lies. But LGD forced off this turret, and Imp, he's so low.
You can see here Uzi's build. He's going to go straight for that Hurricane. We've seen many different flavors of Kalista in the LPL so far. He's against a one-tank lineup, and that one tank is going to be Vi. It's a bit of an off-tank. Go in the Warrior enchant. It will have damage on that Vi. This is where Kalista is most set up to succeed. Okay, they have to deal with the Assault and Battery, but apart from that, if Kalista can stay alive through the initial burst, there's no true tank to isolate damage away from, so they should be able to spread out and do so much work in a team fight.
And you can see as well, just having this laning phase going so well for OMG is going to mean that sort of this Graves burst damage to come through in the mid game just may not be there to the level that LGD need.
It's a 20 CS advantage here for Kalista. You take Graves in this laning matchup, but I mean, there's a reason Uzi's been eating so many Kalista bans so far.
Oh, yeah. Didn't even have an option to look at that champion in the last matchup. Of course, spent the entirety of that time on the bench. We're going to see exactly what all the fuss was about this game. And see whether Uzi's late-game Kalista is going to stand up here as well, because the laning phase, it's a very different story to how these Kalistas have been playing as we get later and later into the game.
And now that we finally have the 1v1 matchup in top, this matchup again is similar to mid, kind of on its head, because we've seen Rumbles consistently burning that Maokai, taking him down the early game and really forcing him out of lane and getting a CS advantage. But because of all the lane swaps, 39 CS is the advantage for a Maokai and a Maokai versus Rumble matchup. That's how hard the early game rotations have helped this Maokai in the 1v1.
And Gogoing, we'll see whether he decides to go for that Righteous Glory or whether he sticks with that Rod of Ages pick up there on the top side. Hasn't gone that double Doran's Ring style, so maybe looking towards that Rod of Ages instead.
I mean, my kind of take on the Maokai power spikes is, look, if you have a very early to mid-game comp, rush a Righteous Glory if you can. If you're way behind and you're getting your Rod of Ages at a bad par time, again, Righteous Glory is fine. But in general, if you can opt into a Rod of Ages, you get it.
Oh, yeah. That being said, Acorn has managed to pick up a little bit more farm here. He's only 30 behind at this stage. Wave is pushing back towards Gogoing, though, and Acorn doesn't want to spend too much time there, of course. Gogoing with a lot of lockdown, those sapling pokes meant to be doing some work. Cool. Hopping over the wall here as he clears out this wave, and in the bottom lane, Uzi is going to kill PYL.
Kill and bottom, wow.
Yeah, and there's a teleport to Tibbers coming through here as well. The equalizer comes down. Uzi is underneath the enemy turret somehow, and how is he still alive?
We didn't see the start of that fight, but we know the end of it here. 1-1-1-2 is Uzi, but their kills come through for OMG.
Yep, and Wayless is trying to come round. He sees the low health bars. He sees that he might be able to get some work done. Assault and Battery is available. He wants to find Uzi. Gogoing is the focus now as Xuen picks up that kill. There's the Assault and Battery. That's what you need, and the double kill for Xuen.
Credit to Xuen. He held onto that cooldown a long time. I think Uzi was kind of baited into thinking it was down. Doesn't matter how many little mini jumps you have from your passive. They're going to lock down from the Assault and Battery. Confirms the kill.
Oh, yeah. Now Acorn with a decent score line. 1, 1, and 2 does have those 2 early game power spike items that Rumble does love as the steal comes through actually on the blue buff. Wayless going to be denied that one, and of course the mana cost of a lot of Ahri's abilities are quite high, and if you want to be spamming out your spells in short order, it becomes a little bit difficult.
It does become difficult. The Rod of Ages pickup comes through from Maokai. We're going to see about a 24.5-minute Rod of Ages power spike.
Lane swap.
Yeah, I mean, 11 minutes obviously is the usual power in a 1v1, but 14 minutes, only a 3-minute delay, like you say, is an excellent power time in this game. Maokai's going to have to do a lot of work peeling for his carry. It's probably not going to be so much the initiation Maokai as trying to lock down, say, a diving Wayless. He's the one who's really overfarmed in this game. Abyssal Scepter Morel Nomicon is insane items for 15 minutes. He doesn't have any boots, but if they can ever get their ward line up, if they can ever get their pinks up and get a pick, so much damage coming out of Ahri.
Oh yeah, and 30 CS behind, still with this gigantic lead. Of course, those 3 kills doing so much work. Sentinel is wandering around here trying to get some vision. PYL with a wonderful dodge. That was almost like that spear was coming out of fog of war, but he just knew that it could be there.
OMG's only chance of winning this dragon fight is a pick. They're against a Rumble with double magic penetration items and just an insanely high damage Ahri here. They have to play so careful, because if a pick comes through, someone will be deleted instantly.
Yeah, and Uzi has been back here as the charm does land. Wayless going to eat a spear to the face as that Foxfire doing some damage. Oh, Spirit Rush going to be used to dodge out of the way of the spear. Of course, was already blown. Going to use the last charge to keep himself safe. And the Dragon, it's been started here by OMG, and Uzi, he's got BF Sword Hurricane. He's at a massive power area in this game so far. LGD, nothing they can do.
They played wonderfully well there, OMG, to never give LGD position to look for a fight. Even with those power spikes, the early harass onto Wayless, and just the way they grouped, there was no option for any sort of fight. There was not even an equalizer attempted to initiate a fight. OMG playing smart.
See whether LGD can put the pressure on for the next one. Of course, the gold's still very close, and they have a very strong Ahri, but the towers are now starting to fall down. The mid lane turret had already fallen for OMG. Now the bottom lane is going to fall in favor of them as well.
Perhaps the most impressive thing about this game is that the CS lead, so the gold lead does exist between Ahri and Cool. You expect that, of course, in this matchup when you have 3 kills. But there's a larger gold lead between Uzi and Imp. Imp has done so much farming, 156 CS. He's really overtuned compared to Uzi. So compared to Graves, sorry.
Uzi now heading towards this mid side. They have taken the outer turret already, but I have a feeling that Uzi probably wants to head towards that top. Really put the pressure on there. You can see he's waiting back, just defending. And if Imp leaves, you can imagine the classic OMG, let's kill the outer ring of turrets, is going to ensue.
And look, Maokai's been in the top lane. He's the one who's been the least involved in all these rotations. Happy to farm. They're, of course, waiting for that Rod of Ages power spike to come in. They have the scaling advantage here with that Rod of Ages pickup, but the fight might be on a mid.
Yeah, definite battle coming through. Schwengate taking so much damage as the equalizer comes down in perfect Acorn fashion, making sure the disengage comes through. And Schwen somehow survives.
Yeah, the equalizer was wonderfully positioned. It corralled Uzi, ate over half his health just from equalizer damage. Has to back away now, but nobody dies in that long trade.
Yeah, it was looking a little bit worrying there, but Acorn to the rescue yet again. That being said, down 50 CS there in the top side. Going never wanting to leave this lane. As Acorn comes back and says, what, have you just been hanging out here the whole time? Quite frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be frustrated about a lot of things this game, Acorn. He's always been the rotational god. He's always been excellent at playing with the minimum of resources, but he's 2 levels down, forced to lane against Going, who has a significant amount of health with the Rod of Ages, already working on magic resist. He doesn't want to be sitting in lane. He wants to be going for objectives, but they've already given up the first 2 dragons.
And it's only 6 minutes until Going is going to have that Rod of Ages fully stacked after he got a decent timing on that one. LGD, they are going to do a decent rotation here to the mid lane and pick up the outer turret, so answering back that turret advantage.
No other objective to set up for just yet. No dragon available. Acorn's been so patient in the top, but he might be punished here.
Loveling and going very patiently waiting, and there are more members coming here as Acorn, he gets Chilling Smited. Loveling gonna miss the spear as the Harpoon comes in as well. Ventral Maelstrom being popped by going. Acorn sort of hoping that he was actually on the red side of the map at this stage, as he's gonna go on a wild goose chase. There's the pounce. It's actually gonna be the E to pick up the kill. Beautifully played by OMG, and patient work by Loveling.
But across the map here, we can see Imp is probably going to get this bottom turret. So it's the second turret in quick succession coming out. They'll actually be probably first or at least even when it comes to the outer ring of turrets falling. Going to be 3 all on the map here in a second. And this game is all evened up despite Kalista being overtuned, Imp having a difficult laning phase. But I guess the big factor again, all the scaling coming through from going on this Maokai.
Oh yeah, not to mention Cool on this Azir as well. We've seen Azirs do ridiculous things in that late stage of the game, and I think a lot of it is Wayless having to utilize this huge lead that he has on this Ahri. And whether they can translate that into map objectives and things paying off throughout other stages as the Assault and Battery onto Loveling here. The Charm hasn't even been thrown out yet. There it is. It does go wide, but that's going to be Imp with a beautiful ultimate to pick up the kill.
And there's also some diving happening in the bottom lane here. Uzi's going for the turret dive on Acorn, takes him down. They're trying to answer the turret push with the bottom lane turret. Low falls in the trade, but they're going to try and equalize global gold.
Yeah, LGD are going to push through, of course. Acorn with a valiant 1-for-1 trade there as he did get dived. But this inner turret going to fall down on the side of LGD. Playing OMG's game to a T, you have to think, making sure they prioritize taking these turrets. It's a very similar game both of these sides are playing, and it's escalating this game towards a later stage very early on. Of course, only 20 minutes in, but as these inner turrets are falling down, it's going to open up this map for both teams.
To me, OMG have really focused on dragon control this game. And why I like that is that, of course, as you move towards the third and particularly the fifth dragons, it forces the enemy team to initiate. LGD, they do have the Vi initiate, they do have Leona coming in, but OMG's comp is actually best played defensively, best played peeling for the Kalista Nidalee and the amount of damage they can put out in the backline. When going forward, Nidalee suffers, but in this situation, going being so massive, it's going to force LGD to react, force LGD to initiate, and because that plays into OMG's strengths, the Kalista pick could really pay off in the long fights because the Maokai is going to be such a tanky front line, and Imp is going to find no way through this big tree.
And you can see as well, Gogoing actually opting for a chain vest here. An interesting decision because of the double AP comp. Do you think that he's just definitely respecting Imp and the amount of damage he's going to be putting out in these fights?
I mean, health as a statistic, when you have that 20% AoE damage reduction, can be very big against magic damage because it's mostly going to be burst damage coming through here, although there's a lot of consistent damage also coming out from that Rumble Equalizer. But he really needs to eat the bulk of the damage coming out from Graves.
LGD. Well, very, very low. They do have vision of this dragon falling down. Wayless comes over the edge, but they do manage to secure the dragon. A quick pickup onto Loveling, though. There's the Assault Battery there, but Cool just gets exploded. Low, very low as well as Imp comes through. Uzi trying to kite around. The Charm lands, though, and Wayless able to secure that kill for Imp, and Xuen and Gogoing just battling on the bottom side. You have to think Xuen going to be in trouble, forced to flash away.
Yeah, Gogoing taken so far away from his carries, and they paid for it there, OMG. The first Spirit Walk, the first use of the ultimate into the Charm onto Nidalee deleted Loveling off the map. Of course, Nidalee does struggle when she's initiated on, and they took the fight from there. Very smart team fighting coming out from LGD.
Yeah, beautiful play. And one thing that we hadn't looked at all that recently was this kill score, 12 now to 5. LGD looking to be running away with it. Of course, you can't see the dragons taken, which is definitely in favor of OMG, and they have the scaling comp. But LGD, they're starting the snowball. Of course, the
Ahri Charm is the big winner right there. They completely delete Loveling, and then Wayless continues into the back line. They get the 2 priority initiates between Xuen locking down Cool and that Charm onto Nidalee. And look, everyone else falls because Maokai's just fighting along the side. They need to focus their resources to peeling for Cool, because although Azir is so strong with zone control, he's very hard to dive with that Emperor's Divide. If he's dying instantly during the Assault and Battery, all his setup, all his items are for naught.
Yeah, and Xuen has 2 targets, almost 3 targets there for that Assault and Battery that are fantastic. I mean, you remove Loveling, Cool, or Uzi from these fights, things are going to be great for LGD. And you saw, like, having Wayless able to just spirit rush around these fights, the dancing that's going to come through from Kalista, it's just not going to be enough. And he hit him with a charm, and I just can't comprehend how much skill that takes just to be able to know exactly when to throw that ability out and catch a Kalista.
It's a consistent problem we've seen with these jungle Nidalee comps is whenever they're forced to group up for an objective, they can really struggle because any sort of pick coming onto a one-tank lineup like GoGoing's Maokai, Chuan in a bit of trouble here.
Might have to Vault Breaker his way to safety. Of course, that outer turret is not available anymore. Is Loveling going to just smite him on his way out?
I mean, that's the big issue, is that if you can get onto Loveling, if you can get onto one of these squishy long-range damage dealers, it completely undoes the OMG comp. They have to be so smart with their positioning. LGD able to disengage right there, and they weren't. And whenever you're around a Dragon or Baron, you're likely going to be corralled in an area, corralled against a Vi, an overtuned Arya, and of course the Equalizer at your own peril.
Yeah, Wayless looking to set up a little bit of a gank rush here as OMG. They're looking for the Baron. They've almost been on a timer the last few games that we've seen on 25 minutes. Wayless finds them though, and look at all that damage coming through. Low gets down to Tibbers, but it's not going to be enough. He's just going to fall down, and Cool has to get the hell out of this fight. Loveling does manage to secure the Baron, and GoGoing's pretty tanky, but not tanky enough as LGD just clear off the fight. Cool goes down in the backside after that beautiful equalizer, forces him into a bad decision. Uzi found his way under a turret, but there are 4 members collapsing on the final member of OMG, and that is the ace for LGD.
OMG tunneling so hard on the 5.2 balance changes to Baron, realizing, all right, we have Kalista, we have Baron secure, and Baron's been nerfed. Let's rush it down. But it's predictable play. They were spotted by wards. Wayless once again gets the fortuitous charm at the start, and with magic resist debuffs against a Rumble Ari combo, you will die so fast.
And we were talking about Imp having a rough time in the laning phase earlier on against Uzi and Low when he finally went down there. 6-1-2 on this Graves. Almost has that Bloodthirster completed as well as the Static Shiv Infinity Edge. He is so huge right now, and you can't go past Schwen and Wayless. They've been playing fantastically this game. 3-0-7, 5-0-8. Man, LGD, they have definitely turned it on just recently.
And even though Acorn was so far behind CS, still is 62 CS, has been well denied in levels, in experience. The one thing you can say is that with a jungle Nidalee, there's no obvious Aegis carriers on this OMG side, barring GoGoing. He's gone for a more selfish build. And the double magic penetration and then the Abyssal Scepter, because of course Wayless has been the backline so often, these OMG members are taking true damage from the Equalizer in fights.
Oh yeah, and it's so dangerous, that ability. Often, you know, you can talk about equalizer bots. That's all that Acorn needs to be at this stage.
Absolutely. When you're taking true damage, the base damage speaks for itself. He has the double magic potential. He even has the nice chunk of AP from the Zhonya's. I mean, Wayless is doing his job for him. All he needs to do is layer that ult down, and who would you trust more than Acorn to hit an equalizer?
Oh yeah, the Rumble player of old. And this has happened before, of course, GoGoing able to get ahead in these lane matchups, and in the past, Acorn just finds a way to get himself in there. 3-3-6 now, 0-2-2 for GoGoing, but does have that advantage, and see whether OMG can turn it around. We've spoken about scaling on these comps quite a few times, but LGD, they're able to get the map pressure that they're looking for, and now looking for another pick potentially.
For OMG to win a fight, they need the charm. They need Ari to be completely negated by this Maokai, because those picks, it's the pick onto Loveling, the pick in the previous fight, that opens up OMG's team comp. If Maokai isn't at the front soaking damage at the start of a fight, you can easily assassinate the squishy Nidalee, Azir, or Kalista. They've set up for the split push here. They do have some good defensive wards down, but this OMG lineup, it's effectively a push comp of old. If you take out their one tanky member or make him trivial, as we saw GoGoing fighting with Chuan in the sidelines in one of the previous fights, OMG's comp just gets rolled over.
It does, and Loveling trying his best to become more of a tanky threat on his side as LGD are going to pick up their first dragon of the game. He's got that Banshee's Veil, so going for more of a tanky situation, but just not sure whether he's going to be doing anything relevant.
You have to be so careful about where they're fighting. That's the big issue, is that Maokai only has one lockdown CC. So in a big fight, in a big unorganized fight, he'll lock down one member. And if someone else is getting assassinated by all the damage of Wayless, or a fortuitous pick by PYL on this Leona, I mean, there's just only so much Maokai's kick can do. He can soak damage with a second frontliner. You know, if you had a Hecker and Maokai, absolutely Maokai's tankiness is very important, but they don't need to focus going for damage unless OMG fight very intelligently.
Well, it has happened in the past. OMG have turned around games, and the lead is not getting to the point where it's going to be almost impossible. Of course, only 4,000 gold here in favor of LGD, but it's this map pressure. It's the fact that they have Schwen, such a tanky boss in these fights, and Acorn with his exquisite equalizer placement.
I mean, what OMG does have to show for the first 30 minutes here is 3 dragons. They're 3-1 ahead in terms of the dragon. They've been setting up well for those, particularly the first 2 were taken very intelligently despite being against this Rumble and a 3-kill Ahri from very early in the game. So they have been good at taking that objective, but they need to keep and double down on it, because if this game goes long enough, it's just going to be so difficult for Going to do the lifting he needs to do. He needs to do so much tanking for his team, and there's only so much he can do.
Yeah, and Uzi, we haven't seen too many Fates calls starting these fights in ways that OMG won as well. Could it be better for OMG to actually dictate the flow of this game and find picks themselves? Because at the moment, sort of, they're milling about in this mid side of the map and not really sure on what they want to do with this game. And this is a very different OMG to what we've been seeing, is because they've normally been on the front foot. I mean, when it comes to this.
Yeah, Nidalee and Annie are just such polarizing champions that maybe you're right, and maybe they'll have to take a different tack. I'd much rather see this comp with, for example, Anami for disengage. I think it would give so much, because whenever Annie's getting into a fight, she just needs to kind of be Tiberizing defensively. It's the 1.5 second stun for Peel rather than the initiate, and you always want an Annie to be initiating fights. So perhaps the idea here, get Callista into a side lane, ward up first so she can split push. Of course, can split push so fast with the way that Rend interacts with Hurricane, and then set up a gank push. Maybe getting that pick is the first step towards OMG getting back into this game.
And if they get that pick around the time of that dragon as well, manage to secure that fourth, they can force LGD into difficult situations. Another minute on the Baron here, of course. OMG did manage to secure the first one, unfortunately following that up with an ace to themselves, so never really being able to capitalize on that pushing power. But LGD, of course, they have the timer, and they could make the power play for that Baron.
You can see Loveling so respecting Wayless with the early Banshee Veil on Nidalee. It almost makes you question why pick Nidalee if you're going to pick up a Banshee Veil. You could say the 3 dragons came off the very strong pressure Loveling can apply on Nidalee when she's ahead, but having to be forced into this Banshee Veil, just not going to be hitting for anywhere near as much damage.
And the poke, of course, coming through is very necessary here for OMG as well. So that is very relevant, being forced into that item and not being able to pick up, you know, the likes of a Death Cap that we saw MLXG picking up in our last matchup.
Even a Seraph's Embrace would be some implied tankiness with the big damage potential.
Yeah, Solarflare actually did come down here as Tibbers finds POAL as Baron's just coming up. Uzi picking up the kill for himself. Uncharacteristic mistake here from LGD, and it couldn't have happened at a worse time. 4v5 situation now as Baron does come back. LGD, they're a fair way ahead, 4,000 gold, and they have it on the right members here as well. But OMG now with an opportunity to make a play for themselves.
Yeah, Loveling's able to position so much more aggressively because will not be deleted by the first charm combo coming in from Wayless. So maybe this Banshee Veil will be fortuitous for the team. They can position more aggressively. Not realistic to try and rush down the Baron. Of course, the first one kind of undid the solid early game of OMG. And Imp and LGD are not going to buy this Baron attempt.
No, they're trying to go for a bit of a bait situation. Tib has just poked his head around, and Imp will say thanks for the 50 gold. Not going to be too worried. Uzi actually takes a lot of damage, collateral damage even used. There's the equalizer. LGD turning it on. Loveling gets Assault and Battery there as Low goes down so far. That Emperor's Divide was massive from Cool, and then Zon uses himself up. He's trapped the members of LGD, and they're starting to melt. Going is huge. PYL found his way back into the fight. Solar Flare onto Cool. The Zenith Blade to come through there as well as Imp trying to get the damage down, and he finds it. Going. Now the focus as the quick draw to come in. He's a very tanky man. Loveling also is alive, and another Zenith Blade, and Imp secures the kill. A 4 for 3. LGD somehow turning it around.
A titanic fight in this top of the table clash. It was so even. All started by a wonderful equalizer. Straight up that jungle choke coming out from Akon. That's what you get from Akon. Wonderful bound by PYL dies, and actually the kill credit goes to Nidalee.
Brilliant work. Loveling hitting the Baron with a spear, and POL, you can't be in that pit when you're that low on health.
No, you can't. And actually 4 for 4. How even was that fight, despite seeing amazing ultimate use from both Acorn and, as you mentioned, the Emperor's Divide from Azir. So as we start this fight, Uzi takes so much poke damage, has to flash because of the equalizer. It's a wonderful zoning equalizer, splitting the team, and this is where I thought LGD would walk away with it. But there's a lot of AoE damage, and we come back to the fact that there's no frontline tank, so putting out a lot of damage is Uzi. But as the fight goes on, very low health members here. Cool tries to back away, but the Solar Flare is still available, and Imp can start cleaning up. Imp splashes down because he actually flashed to kill the Kalista at the back of the fight. It was a really exciting, drawn-out fight, but OMG, they're using the disarray that last fight called to pick up a 4th dragon.
If they can. Xuen is around here as well. Imp going to throw that smoke screen in, but this dragon going down very, very low. It's actually going to be stolen by Xuen somehow. Equalizer comes down again. Uzi having to stand on it. Loveling gets charmed up. Acorn going to just punch him in the head as OMG members are falling left, right, and center. Uzi trying to dance around. There's the Zhonya's. He's still alive, though, and he is finally going to fall. Imp now with a triple kill. He is hunting Uzi, and we'll see whether he can catch up to this one. The world champion trying his very best. Uzi dancing around this one as best he can, but Imp is terrifying on this full health Graves. Bloodthirster completed. There's the arrow to come down. Quick draw, that massive crit for the ace for LGD.
And you have to say the featured matchup has been answered right there. The Gambit was sent out from Uzi with all his world heroics, but Imp this game is going wild on Graves for the 2nd time in the Graves vs. Kalista matchup. 13, 1, and 3. The world champion showing his class.
Yep, and he's now going to try and solo Baron here as well, just to show us how incredibly powerful he is. Probably not quite going to work out. There are members of OMG coming back alive here as well, as the Scuttle Crab going to help to heal him back up. The teleport used by Acorn, they want to rush down this Baron low, is around here. Loveling here as well. He's got a lot of Baron Steel potential available to him. They've got lots of wards in this pit as well. LGD, they're not going to be deterred from taking this one. They, of course, know that they have a lot of pressure. Look at the equalizer to come through. The Baron actually gets secured, and Imp picks up a kill as well, as Loveling tried to go for the hero steal and couldn't find it.
It was definitely worth it. Xuen actually did falter on the smite. There still has smite available. So very fortunate secure coming out of Graves.
It might have been a crit that just did more damage than smite. Who knows? He was doing a lot of work, able to take down about a 1/3 of Uzi's health with one auto attack, as we saw just before. But the Baron buff now able to give LGD the pushing power that they need to break this base. And we'll see whether OMG can hold on. Of course, only 4 members available. They're going to concede the inhibitor turret. LGD in so much control.
LGD are doing so much work in this fight. They have so much lockdown. And I thought the Maokai in the late game would be tanky enough to stop this frontline burst, but it hasn't worked.
Yeah, there's the Tibbers coming through, immediately QSS by Imp. And there's the Fate's Call, a Quadra knock up onto LGD as Low tries to start the fight again. The flash into another 3-man stun as they're getting torn apart. LGD have to watch out, going, trying to tank up, but Imp is so huge. Wayless secures that kill. It's cool. Needs to watch out. Pops that Zhonya's after the Emperor's Divide, but Loveling's going to fall down as well. 3 dead now on the side of OMG as Uzi again trying to kite. And this is a very reminiscent situation as Uzi just going to try and clear out as many minions as he can on his way out.
I thought for once they would get the fight they were looking for, but Ari had the ultimate available the whole time. The burst that came through once she initiated, able to Zhonya's as well. And Imp, he's at the back of the fight, and whenever he's there, he has so much damage.
Oh, yeah, and cool. Despite the fact that he's got huge items right now on this Azir, almost all the items that he'd want here in this game, could finish a Zephyr if he feels like it. Natural's Tooth, of course, not that great on Azir, but unable to do really anything here as Imp just walked up to him and shot him in the head.
Imp is sitting on 6,000 gold as he backs here. That is how long he has had since he was able to shop. He was actually even in effective items with Uzi, just because he'd never been able to spend the huge chunk of gold he'd picked up. They still win the fight. That's how ahead LGD is they don't even need to spend 6,000 gold on their AD carry.
Yeah, so he just went back and turned Static Shiv, Bloodthirster, IE, and a QSS into Mercurial Scimitar and the Last Whisper on top of that, and still has 500 gold to spare.
He even enchanted his boots for good measure.
Oh yeah, get some alacrity in there. Beautiful work.
It's massive. Just crazy how strong Graves is. But they're trying to get the pick on Trent. He's pretty tanky, so they're going to have to overextend like crazy for this pick.
Yeah, not going to go for it, though. LGD are collapsing on this location. Assault and Battery is there. Cool. Might be in trouble here. He's going to pop the ultimate as Imp comes around at the same time. There's a collateral damage, but Uzi, he was waiting in the wings, trying to bait out that ultimate. Imp, though, is just going to auto-attack him to death. It's actually the flamethrower that comes through. Loveling now trying to use that passive to run away. The flash going to be used. Imp a bit annoyed about that, but that's about it as super creeps are pouring into this base. Low now waiting. Very confusing timing. Scrap Shield might be available yet again, and Akon, he's going to be just fine. As Low going through a bit of a cheesy move. Going last man standing.
I love Kalista in the Graves matchup because late game, of course, you can avoid all those spells with your passive resets, but it doesn't matter when your auto attacks are doing over a half of the enemy AD carry's health. So overtuned was Imp on Graves. The featured matchup, at least in the first game, has been answered defiantly by the world champion Imp.
Yeah, and it might be sort of this Kalista Graves matchup coming through. We don't necessarily know, but it looked to me like Imp definitely had Uzi's number, especially towards the later stages of that game, despite how the laning phase went when they did actually go toe-to-toe 2v2. But man, Imp was just going off that game, and he was playing like he had something to prove.
In the mid lane, Wayless's pressure compared to Cool's. Okay, Wayless had that snowball start, but Azir was basically a free target for Charm this game. He did so little work because with Maokai in the front line, the initial lockdown would come down, and I thought, okay, that means that well, Cool can set up in the back line, use the Emperor's Divide for disengage. That pick will be paying off, but there were just so many threats from so many angles, whether it was the Assault and Battery flying and whether it was the flank engage from Wayless on that Ahri, that Cool just died in the crossfire every time. I'm sure the replay will just demonstrate some of the excellent team fighting that we saw from LGD. This is a very early fight, probably one of the best examples of just what LGD's comp can do. Of course, Maokai's super tanky already. He's in the position. He expects the people to come from around the ridge and compete here, but it's going to go very differently. We'll roll the tape, and of course, Wayless initiates this fight after the Dragon comes up with a perfect pick on Loveling. He's instantly deleted, and of course, LGD, when they're coming in from behind, they can use Chwen's ultimate onto Cool, and again, both backline threats die instantly here. They have three of them, Nidalee, Kalista, and Azir, and if two of them die instantly, I mean, what's a comp to do?
Yeah, nothing that they could do. And I have a feeling that that killing spree that Wayless went on at about 4 minutes into that game really gave them a shot. And OMG with one of the first surrenders that I've ever seen to come out from OMG ever.
And it's a defeated surrender because, I mean, they would have lost anyway during their death time. As that was frustration, that was angst, that was understanding that this is an OMG that's struggling. They took that 2-0 yesterday, but their recent run of form has been nothing to speak of. And LGD on the uptick, sure, but just decisively beating OMG in Game 1.
But we've seen OMG beat in Game 1 before and come back with emphatic fashion. We'll see whether they can do it this time as Game 2 is coming up very soon.